Hello guys, today is December 26th. Hope everyone had great Christmas, great family time, good weekend, and hopefully enjoying your holidays. You know, so we are last week of the year, last trading week of the year. Gonna do another recap. Welcome to the episode, another episode of Ripster Daily Trade Recaps and Teachings. So guys, I was expecting a very low volume week. As expected, there was not much news in the pre-market, but we had a decent day. I mean, market continues to rally at highs, very strong, bullish. End of the day, end of the year, FOMO. Looks like funds have been trying to buy in, and the stocks, the swing trades, small caps, crypto, everything has been moving. Even biotech has started to move recently. Like we discussed in our last Friday calls and other market analysis, that market is very strong. So I will discuss that. I will discuss SPY QQQ when I come to that trades. But today, decent day, big win on Intel today, and huge winners on SPY QQQ, all day guidance, NSPX. Tesla gave us a decent trade as well. We had some good scalps on AMD and NVDA, and then some day two setups on FedEx, Micron. I will discuss those, and then middle of the price alerts on MDB. So there's a bunch to discuss today, and guys, there's some nice teachings as well, because teachings about your size and stop losses, we'll discuss those. We'll take example of one trade today, why traders are even stopping out and losing even when the trade is working, because they are not executing right, they are not sizing right. And so we will discuss those things. So yeah, overall nice green day today for the community, and a lot of good ideas on my Twitter as well. So let's go and start the recap. For anybody new here, so these recaps are from my community, from my timestamped recaps of what my guidance on the various trade alerts. It also, I will include some of the things that I share on Twitter. Any ideas on Twitter that I share, we'll talk about that as well. So basically, the daily recap of trades, a little bit of market overview, and we'll discuss all that. So I wake up every day, guys, 45 minutes before the market open. I go through a bunch of news sources trying to identify what would be my watch list today. So I go through a bunch of news sources that you can see here, and I look for analyst notes, analyst upgrades, downgrades, what are the key volume movers in pre-market, and then I create my watch list. If you do not know how to work in pre-market, there's some webinars I did for my community that's called daily day trading routines. You should come in and watch those. That should really help you out. So guys, so this was the watch list today. There was not many news plays. There was some Intel, NIO, FedEx, they had news. Then Micron, FedEx, NTES, Nike, these were some day 2, day 3 repeatable setups. Then we have our market indicators. Then we were looking at our marketplace, Apple, Microsoft, Google, our usual plays that we look at daily. Then these are the levels that I create for my community. You can timestamp those levels and see how they panned out. If you just want to take example of IWM, it held our 202 support pivot, and it continued to push during the day for some nice trade. I will recap IWM as well on that. So we will recap those, and then we'll look at some other trades like AMD and NVDA, which broke out of the pivots, Boeing, which broke out of the resistance pivot and rallied. And so there's a lot of plays that come out of these levels every day. Even we talk about Apple, it was bearish as you see, and Apple was a short, never got over the resistance pivot that I gave. So it was essentially an all day short, and we'll discuss that as well when we get into those details. But this is at high level, guys, how we plan for the day in the community and how we trade. So let's get started. So I'm gonna get started with the SPY and QQQ. So let's look at our SPY and QQQ trades today, guys. So SPY in the morning, I saw the strength. It was breaking out of pre-market highs, as you know, the level on the SPY that I gave this morning were. Let's look at those levels. The levels on the SPY were 474.60 right here. That's what broke out, and then 475.38. So my pivot levels were breaking out, and that's when I decided that it's a good long. I told everybody in the community to elongate, scalp elongate SPY and QQQ both into 10 a.m. And as you see, there was a decent move into 10 a.m. for SPY QQQ calls, and if specifically if you were trading SPX. So 475 was my first target. We met that first target, and then I told everybody to take profits into 10 a.m. It held the trend, and I took my first profits on this big pop down. So this was the first morning trade. You can clearly see I was on the voice guiding everybody, but it was a very small range, low ATR, and when it was testing this lows, this is when I took my final profit, and then I waited for the end of the day when the trend, then again it started to move. If you watch this carefully, it started to move over this breakout 475.20, and then this breakout 410s highs. So this is a breakout, this is a flat top breakout, this is another range or flag resistance breakout. So when I saw those setting up, that's when I told everybody that we're going to get another trade here for long, and that was our end of the day. And I continuously talked about that how bullish the market is, and I did talk about the levels over the last week's highs. That was a key breakout. QQQ was already over the all-time highs, right? And I did tell everybody that keep eye. Let me show you. So I did say, if you read here, QQQ, keep eyes for end of the day breakout. So you see all day guidance right here for SPY and QQQ. Even my price alerts hit on QQQ 410.44, and then that was a breakout trade end of the day that came in power hour. Decent trade there, and decent trade on SPY was a good guidance on our SPY and SPX floor. Everybody traded pretty well on SPX floor. We have a dedicated SPY and QQQ SPX floor where everybody was trading it. But what I wanted to show is nobody was shorting it. This was the all day trend. We were with the trend. I started talking about, and it's not about alerts in our community, it's about the understanding the trend and staying on right side of the trend. We are always on the right side of trend. Some people, you go in other communities, they might be trying to, too high, short it. Now it's up to you how you execute, where you take the positions. I showed you two trades here. The first one was the morning one, the breakout, that trade. Second one was the midday breakout. Even if you stopped out here, you could get back in, or you could get back in at this breakout that I was pointing out, this breakout, and then you can use the stops and low of the candle and ride back up. This was much cleaner breakout on QQQ, as you clearly said. I talked about this breakout, end of the day breakout. Can't be more clear than this, guys. It's not hindsight. I'm showing you before and after. So you have to study. So other thing I want to teach everyone, you do not need, like people today were talking about, we need this levels, we need this indicator for this pivots, we need indicator for that levels, Fibonacci. Yes, I use Fibonacci too. Use what works for you, but do not clutter your chart with 20 things. Do you see anything that, apart from my pre-market pivot levels, apart from my bigger view, or if I look here from my 1 hour view and daily view, my charts, do you see anything else? Do you see like traders have 20 indicators here? You don't see anything. And still I was talking, what I was guiding all day was correct. I was talking about the QQ, let's say it was my prediction if you want to, but it was not. It was just simply my setup and my study of price action. So you don't need it. So I successfully guided my community whole day for SPY and QQQ longs and breakouts. with the clean chart, just using my EMA Clouds for a trend and my levels and price action, nothing
MGAM.
else. So similarly, you don't need 20 things to figure out the trend and trade. So learn that and focus on that and see how much success you get. All right, let's move to the next one, guys. Okay, so IWM, first of all, it was bearish. That's fine. That's not where you enter. When it turned bullish, that's when you enter, right? It turned bullish. 202 was the pivot level that I gave in the pre-market, and that's the pivot level. You use the 202 as a risk for the breakout trade. And then of course, I had given a level on IWM on the top side, which was 202.81, 202.50. 202.81, 202.50, both of them broke out. And then it was all about, and don't, even if you want to look about on my swing call on IWM, look at this breakout, guys. Look at this beauty. I gave this breakout from here, then from 200, and it's a good swing as well. And it's been working, and we've been talking about IWM on our trading floor. We've been discussing, you know, people been trading IWM, 88% IWM, 40% IWM. That's what we were talking about, right? So that's how you have some good trades. That's how you win. All right, guys. Let's talk about Intel. So the plan was simple today. So the plan was very simple on Intel. Let's look at what was the plan. Oops, hold on. So as soon as I saw the market open, I saw the strength on Intel, right? So that's why I longed the starter position, even though you have to understand that there is a amateur move and a trend move. But when I saw it, let's go on a smaller time frame. Maybe we can look at it in a much better way. So I longed it. You see this candle where I longed it, starter position. And I wanted to see how it reacts to the 10-minute chart, right? And we have seen this before. And what did 10-minute chart do? Right to 3450 EMA Ripster clouds, it touched it and bounced. So that's what gives you confidence to add back, and that's when I gave you 4870 becomes your risk level, because that's where EMA cloud is. And then you can add into starter, or you can add into starter on the breakout. The breakout was 4930, and 50 cents was what we were trading. 50-cent calls which we were trading, which were initially from 40 cents to 50 cents, but by the end of the day they were dollar and probably higher tomorrow, because Intel is moving much higher. As I said, overnight Intel be overnight. So I will talk about that. You can see here I overnighted Intel. There was a reason. I'll talk about it. But anyways, so when it held this level, then you add into the breakout, or you add here and let it work. And that's when it started to work. And people stopped out here, right? They add here, they stop out here. That's the worst thing you can do, because once it's showing you a clear level of risk, which made a low EMA clouds, then it's your problem. It's you if you are stopping out here, not stock's mistake. Stock is still trending all the way. If I said long and if I just let it be, it's a winner. Now if you are stopping out when it's none of my rules are breaking, it's still over 3450, it did not break any of my rules, then that's your problem. That's not the problem of the stock. That's your sizing problem. And if you're a small account and you tell me, oh, I have to have a small stop on my position, then you don't even understand how to have stops. If you add here 49 bucks, your risk is 30 cents. You already know the risk is 30 cents. So if your account cannot afford the 30-cent risk, then size lower, size 1 contract, 2 contract. And if even that you can't afford, then your account is not built to trade this stock. Then if you can't afford a 10-15 cent risk on an option or on the shares, then you should not trade with that. Maybe you need a bigger account. So account doesn't define your risk. Your risk is defined by the technicals, and then your size is defined by those technicals. So anyways, so if you stopped out here, there's a problem. And This was the trade all day. You can see my time-stamped guidance all day. My target was 50. End of the day we met 50 cent calls. And sometimes, you know, I give the call options. I usually encourage everyone to find their own strikes, but sometimes I give it, you know, just as a lesson. And you see 50 calls went 50%, the end of the day went 100%. And then I said I will keep some overnight, and look at it, I am banking right now. You know, it's beautiful move here so far. All right, I'm going to talk about NIO. Personally, I never got an entry and I didn't trade it, but the idea was successful. It was a winning idea, and as you see, Intel was a number two watch list, number two play today on our watch list right here. And when I saw the pre-market breakout, that's very time I knew this is a good long. And my risk was 870, 880, and I wanted to see a certain pullback to add, and I was busy with other tickers. But you see that, okay, I can show you 2 minutes if you want to get more clarity, right? So it pushed, but it pulled back, right? If 890, 880 is your risk, that's a decent pullback to add at 9. You can risk 20 cents, and by the end of the day it gave you another 40 cents. Although I did post about NIO few weeks back that it's turning bullish on daily chart, right? That's what I posted. And then last week we discussed in the community that NIO is a good ad on 8 pullback. It's, you know, I talked about it last week, and now it's fully turning bullish on weekly chart, although the real reversal will be on 10, and you know, and then it'll be confirmed swing. So I do like it as a swing, and it's been moving with Tesla. So anyways, decent trade if somebody traded. Low ATR stock, so 50, it trades just 52 cents a day. So that was a decent move on your small account if you traded it. So nice little winning idea there. All right, I'm going to talk about Tesla. So Tesla, initially I was not interested because when it was breaking down, as you know, I'm never interested because I don't know if it is going to break down and further break down. I don't know. So I try to avoid that, you know, even though I could have tried if I, you know, it had bounced a little higher. But anyways, once it pulled down and reclaimed the clouds, that's when I saw it turning bullish right here around 9:50 10 a.m. That's when I saw it turning bullish. That's when I said on the voice that you know, it's okay, that it's okay to long it, and the stops I gave was 253.70. So that was the stop I gave right here, 243.53.70. The breakout I gave was 255, and that's when I you know, scaled into a position for a trade over 255. I started right away small here and scaled into over 255. You can see my guidance. I gave my guidance to everybody, and then it was all about moving the stops up. My first target was 257, and we met about 257 right first, and it pulled back to 10-minute 512 EMA Clouds. It held it, and then all our scanners were showing so much flow, 260 flow, 265. It was crazy flow coming in on Tesla, and I said we should just hold a little bit Tesla here for a bigger push. And then by end of the day we got 258. It's still bullish. I, you know, I ended up keeping small. You know, I said still in the trend, hold. I did tell everybody to still in the trend, hold, and that was when it was holding this trend. So you can clearly see. So nice little trade here today, Tesla. You know, if we risked even if you risked $1 here, you made like a $3. So that's a 1 risk to 3 reward. I didn't trade any options on it, so I don't know how they went, but they I'm sure they went 30, 40, 50%. So that was a nice little trade on Tesla, guys. Read my guidance, read my comments here, pause it, and see how the price reacted. Thanks. All right, guys. So today in the pre-market, there was a news on Apple. Of course, there's been news going around on Apple for some time about the Apple Watch's ban. So I was bearish on Apple today, so I was kind of a short biased on Apple, and it did exactly same how my short setups do. They push into the clouds and then they reject There was no long there. That's what I said. There was no long there. I said first thing in the morning, and you see it pushed into EMA Clouds, rejected, and then pulled back to 193. A real fade would have come if it gave up this area like with high conviction, but it never really gave up this area with high conviction and just held this area, but it was still bearish all day. Every pop you could show towards the EMA Clouds, pop towards EMA Cloud fade, pop towards EMA Cloud fade, right? This pop, this pop, and then failed. You know, it really pushed over and then failed, all day failed. So I don't know. I mean, tomorrow it can really fail if it breaks this 193 level, and so keep an eye. It's still bearish, you know. But as you see, I was rejected cloud, bearish, bearish, bearish. I said it's only a C minus bounce from the pre-market yesterday's lows, but there was no interest, you know. See, I said when it went over 512, I said it can push to 3450, and it did push, right? It did push from 193 to 193.40. Very tight ATR today. It just traded 40% of ATR, so very tight consolidation. So tomorrow it can break down. I mean, it was very tight range on Apple today, so you need to understand DTR versus ATR. So yeah, we watch it tomorrow, but today it was all bearish. My guidance was bearish. I was correct, and nobody was losing money going long here. So FedEx was a day two or day four setup. Yeah, let's see, day one, day two, day one, day two, day three, day four setup, and FedEx had a bull news as well. So in the pre-market, I've been talking about FedEx that I'm bullish, 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 bullish bias versus the cloud, and right away it pushed right out of the gate on that news when I was talking about the risk of 248 on FedEx. And I told everybody, if you can't get an entry, just wait. Either you are ready, because I've been talking about in the pre-market, or if you miss, you wait for the pullbacks, right? So right at open, I saw the strength, and it pushed right from the 250, and then it pushed to 253. My first target was 254. We didn't meet it, but we held the trend, right? So we held the trend. So I said FedEx holding trend, flagging, FedEx holding trend, it was flagging, right? So let's see how but it broke the 512 EMA here, but you see it did hold this previous support level. So that's why sometimes you have to look at a previous support level. You can find a level here as well, you know. So you can't always fully rely on the EMA's clouds. You have always, I always say, support and resistance is first. So anyways, so FedEx was a decent mover from the morning idea 253, and then, you know, push into held the EMA clouds, pull back there. I still like it. We'll see what it does tomorrow, but it was a nice winning idea from pre-market. MU was another day 3 mover which was on a watch list from the pre-market. It pushed decent, it was pushing decent, and then it found this big seller 1 2 3 4 5 candles at 88, and then it pulled back. So for the day trades, if you are specifically in day trades, of course I like it, you know, I called it as swing earlier, then you would have to stop out here. You know, if you were long in the morning at 86.70, you got your dollar, you should have been out. Take half of it here and rest here, you should have been out. So that's just a quick recap on MU. This was again a repeatable setup on day 3. So AMD NVDA was you know, both were strong, super strong at open. So when I saw that, I I started a scalp long. NVIDIA was AMD, I was risking 139.90, and you have to look at my levels, right? The levels I give it, because I don't keep eyes on everything. I mean, I try to, but if I show you the levels on let me show you my level on AMD. Okay, let's go. Yeah, so if you see my level on AMD, it was clearly 141.1 and 140.30. So, and similarly the pivots on those. So those pivots are gone. So it's a bullish bias. You can see the volume. You can see the bullishness coming. So anyways, I was long NVIDIA, I was long AMD, both of them, because of this this push higher at the open 936. If I want to go to the 1 minute chart, I can show you here how, so when I was long at 492.50 area, and then it pushed to 496. That was good enough move for us, right? And same for AMD. AMD was kind of moving faster, in there. So AMD, your risk was still like a more than $1, but it still ran from 140 120s to 140 265. It still gave a decent scalp, and I talked about this 140 250 seller on there, and I personally exited all my scalps both on Nvidia and AMD, but you can see my timestamps of what I said and my guidance, and I talk about the sellers. I talk about the seller, where the seller is. It tried to break the flag, and then if you use 3450 EMA Clouds, reason I scalped because my entry was higher, right? So if I had a very good entry, then I would have held with this 3450, and I'm sure many of traders in the room traded this 3450. You can bounce right here 3450, and then right push for end of the day. Same for Nvidia, right? So Nvidia didn't bounce just like AMD. But anyways, like I said, I was out of those scalps, but you can clearly see that Nvidia was good long trades there. Although Nvidia was this flag break into the close, but it didn't really pan out fully. I just want to talk quickly about Bitcoin and crypto. So I maintain a list of Bitcoin crypto stocks. As you see, I share on Twitter as well. I shared the list in the morning. I've been talking about the CFIR, which is a very strong Bitcoin play as well, and I want to see if expect the continuation tomorrow if it breaks this 5. So it's on my high watch as well. CFIR. Other names I like is HUT. HUT is nice recovery there. Let's look at a few more here. Yeah, I mean, even green. So most of these names, if really Bitcoin decides to push towards 50,000, I really expect a big move on these. So keep watch on these guys. In my community, everybody watches this. I share my watch list. I've been talking about this since morning. Mara, I gave the chart idea at 19. So been only focusing on Mara, right, and coin, but now I think it's time to also focus on the smaller names. I've been talking about the CFIR, and since morning it ramped up really good. And then I also like a name, HUT. I already talked about HUT, HUT, and SDIG was strong. It already made a big move from 6, and I think the other ones are still pending, which can actually make those moves. So we'll be watching all those as well. SID, CFIR, SIDG, HUT, and these other names. So we'll see how they do. Okay, yeah, we already been talking about coin, so we'll see. Yeah, Bitcoin, this was the breakout I gave on Twitter, and it's been crazy since. Anyways, just wanted to quickly look at the Bitcoin plays, and let's go to the next one. Another one I want to quickly talk about is Boeing. Not my personal trade, but I did give you the pivot on Boeing, and you saw the turn bullish over the clouds, I said in the morning. And since turning over the bullish over the clouds, Boeing went down up to make a good rally. You can see my idea alert here at 9:54, and then look at the push, right? So it pushed that from the 10 a.m. flag breakout from 260s to 263s. So BA was a good idea, and as always, it was my levels. So that's why I want to encourage everyone to just look at the levels, trade yourself. I tell how to trade along with the EMA Clouds. So Boeing was another great idea. So let's look at some more. Let's look at some losing ideas today. So Chinese names were doing pretty good, and I was expecting them to push, but then they faded, and this fade happened right after the Taiwan news, and that was the reason that Chinese names gave up. This is what I don't not like about the Chinese names, because there's so much news coming out of them. Initially I was liking Baba for the long, and but when it pulled back, and I realized I tried to take a starter, but then I realized that it was being impacted by the Taiwan news, that whatever the president said that they're gonna, I guess, fight with Taiwan, or who knows. And then I had to stop out quickly because, because of Taiwan news, both Baidu and Baba, gave up. So basically, so yeah, we'll see how Chinese names get done, but these were kind of a losers today. And maybe if there was no news, they would have worked, but it was what it was. Yeah, I want to talk about was a strong. It's our swing. It's a swing in a 10 and so if I show you here, you can clearly see U is our swing from 30 bucks. It's already up 12 bucks here. So that's why I didn't trade it, but people were day trading U. It's part of my SAS cloud list, and so U was good there. Before I close out, I quickly want to talk about MDB. So usually, in our community, I keep eyes on a lot of these news sources and all that. I had this price alert set for a breakout on MDB. Usually, if I have time, I put the context in the price alerts, but mostly the price alerts are either support, resistance, breakout. So whenever there's a price alert, if you're in community, you make sure you look at it. And if you are not in the community, make sure you start using the price alerts wherever you find those pivots, so that when the trade is ready to go. So you see the MDB price alert hit at 409.10 right here, and that's where I had the price alert, and then it went on to go to 408.17 from that 410 price alert. I still like the daily. Daily is the nice chart. You can see here clearly, nice chart on daily, so I like that daily chart. And I did post some research for the community members. I like this MDB. But anyways, the point I wanted to show you was that how did I know before the breakout why the price alert is going in? Because I marked that price on my chart for the breakout, and this is what happens when the breakouts happen. So make sure you do it. All right, guys, sorry for a little long video today. That's enough for today. Make sure to join us on our Christmas promo. Come for community ideas. Do not come for alerts. Come for education. And I'll see you guys tomorrow.